What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Impact. I'm your host, Austin Rice. Let's get started.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. On today's episode, we have Mr. Levi. What's going on, man?
What's up, Austin? How you doing, man?
Good. I would attempt your last name, but I don't want to butcher it. So you can.
All right, my name is Levi. My last name is Shemtov.
Shemtov. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Shemtov, so I was gonna be wrong anyway.
Yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough. It's a Russian last name.
Okay. Perfect, man. So, we met back at the CG event, and just kind of for those of you that don't, for the listeners that don't know who you are, give a brief little background about, who you are, your story, and everything like that, and then we'll dive into the real estate side.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on here and being able to share. I myself listen to a lot of different podcasts, specifically in land. I'm in the land space, and I learned so much from them. And I would love to also share some. Whenever I have the opportunity to do that, it's always a pleasure. So my background, I'm from Uruguay originally. I was born in Uruguay, South America. My parents are from New York, and their parents are from Russia. So that's kind of a little bit of the family background. Yeah. So kind of like international, just jumping around. I've been living in the States since the age of 13. Just living with cousins, grandparents, different schools, American schools. My background business-wise is I got into the restaurant business. I've had a restaurant for the last 10 years. I opened the restaurant when I was 23. I'm 33 today. I opened up a restaurant in Uruguay, which is seasonal. So it runs from December to March. So every year I go back there to Uruguay, I go back home, I run this restaurant, and then I come back to the States. I've had an Amazon business for the last 6-7 years, and about 2 years ago, it was right at the beginning of COVID, so I would say like April, May of 2020. I was back in the States right after my restaurant stint for the year in Uruguay. So I came back to the States. I was in New York, and my brother recommended me to take this course on land flipping from a friend of his that used to have an Amazon business, but he ventured into the land space and just built this huge land business. His name is Paul Hirschko, and his partner Willie Goldberg. They have a course called the Land Investing Pros. So I bought the course, I took it, and I just started doing deals. I did my first deal. My first deal was $800. I offered the guy $700, and he's like $900. I'm like, okay, let's do 800. He's like, okay, deal. And I wrote up a warranty deed. As the course basically teaches you how to self-close and just do your own deals and not use title companies or realtors, how to like save money that way.
Right.
So I wrote up the warranty deed. I literally copied every word from like the vesting deed.
Yeah.
And I mailed it to him with a check, and he went to a notary. He notarized it. He sent it back, and I'm like, all right. I sent it for recording. It recorded, and it worked. All of a sudden, like the property's mine. And everything was like very scary at the beginning.
Right.
And step by step, I just did every little thing that they said you needed to do. And until
I just want to touch on something. Did you say that you mailed him the warranty deed?
Yeah.
With only your signature and a check?
Yeah. So it actually doesn't have my signature because I'm the buyer. So I told him, listen, it's only $800. It's a small deal. We're not going to use a title company. It's not worth it. So the way we're going to do it is I'm going to I'm going to mail you a warranty deed that you need to sign. You and your wife need to sign. And his name was Bruce. I remember his name. And you need to sign it with a warranty deed, with a notary. You could do that at your local bank, or if you want to have a mobile. I had a mobile notary go to his house. That's what it was. So that cost me like $50 or something.
Yeah.
And then Yeah, just sign it. Just send it back to me. And in that letter, there's gonna be $800 check. So you could
It's a
you
lot
could
of
very
faith in people, man.
yeah, it's a lot of faith. For me, it was like, oh wow, $800. I'm risking so much money. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it all worked. He signed it. 99.9% of people are not gonna scam you of $800. It's just not worth it.
Right.
And he then I took that deed signed by him and notarized. I sent it to the county for recording with a $25 check, for the recording fee. And it was recorded. And then every day after that, I was like updating the website, checking to see if the deed, was recorded in the county website. Until one day I saw it was recorded. I'm like, yes, I'm a property owner now. I'm owning property. So the day it was recorded, I went ahead, I listed it on Facebook and Craigslist because that's what the course said you should do.
Right. Yeah.
And I got an offer like right away, like the first day off Craigslist. Somebody saw like a local builder. His name was Jesse. I still remember him. My first seller, my first buyer. He offered me $3,000 and I accepted. I was stoked.
Yeah.
I made great margins.
$2,200 just
yeah, $2,200. Yeah, and the guy, yeah, it was similar process. He had his own title company, so he was able to self close as well with his title company. He didn't charge me anything, because it was a small deal, and from there on, I was hooked. So I basically kept mailing. My marketing method was always mailing, so mailers,
Right.
so blind offers. I would send an offer, mass mail a whole county or whole city or whole particular area in a county, and just offer a certain amount of money in the letter,
Right.
with the bottom people could sign. So my first letter was very, very generic, and it had like the same offer for everybody, regardless of size. I was only targeting certain sizes, so from like 0 to half acre. So I was targeting infill lots, what we call infill lots. Infill lots are, lots for those that are not familiar. Infill lots are lots like if you go to a neighborhood, you go to a street, you have a bunch of houses built, but there's a few lots which are nothing built on them.
Right.
You kind of know that it's going to be buildable. It's going to have electric, it's going to probably have water. It's either going to have sewer or septic, but if there's other houses built nearby, it should be okay, right? So
right. It makes it kind of easy on the buyer side.
Yeah. It makes it easier on the buying side, on the risk side, and it also makes it easier on the comping side, right? Because you're looking at a neighborhood. So if you see lots sold for a certain amount of money, certain size, certain price, you could have a fair idea of what your lot is going to be sell for. So then
you can see it gives. I think it also too gives the visual, right? You can see what's going to be built, right?
Yeah.
Like what's possible to be built and all that stuff. Because I mean, you start talking about these bigger lots, like in the middle of nowhere. It just leaves it up for imagination, right? And that's where developers come in, and that's where builders come in, and they have to really like start from ground zero. Whereas like with what you're talking about with the infill lots, they're already surrounded by pre-existing houses. And so it leaves a lot less up to the imagination. There's a lot more continuity there. They know exactly what's able to be built there, what sells there. So I think that's smart, man, especially just starting off,
Yep. So that's the reason I got involved in land. I always wanted to be in real estate, and land was the gateway drug, I guess. It was like the easy way in to real estate, and I've pretty much stuck to land. I still 2.5 years later, I'm still doing mostly land, and I'll discuss with you later. I'll tell you different things that I've been doing in land itself. But like my bread and butter has been pretty much the same from the beginning. Has been buying infill lots and selling them. I did shift a little more towards wholesaling. At the beginning, I was buying and then selling them.
Right.
As I got more into more expensive lots, like when I say more expensive, I mean in the low mid 5 figures, sometimes in this low 6 figures, like on the buying side. So, those lots, if I can sell them before I'm done buying them, so then I go for it, then I do that. So
it makes more sense too. It's a lot less risk and liability on your end too.
Yeah. So the wholesaling play has been pretty pretty interesting and very, very, very beneficial and pretty profitable for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten stuck with some lots that I've not been able to sell for different reasons. I am gonna sell them. I've never lost money in a deal, so I take pride in that. That
Yeah.
especially in the land business, we're talking about margins which are just non-existent in the regular, whatever you call, like, houses and flipping business. I mean,
Right.
sometimes I would make like 1,000% in a deal. I mean, again, those were more like in the lower figures in the buying side, but the margins were always so good that I was never stuck with a property that couldn't sell. Like right now, I just have some properties which are, because of the situation right now, so the buyers kind of dried up, so it's going to take a little more time, right? So
Right.
then there's more risk involved. You have more money tied up versus wholesaling, where you don't have any money tied up. And the downside of wholesaling is that some people don't understand, that don't see that. They say, hey, why not just wholesale? The downside is that a lot of times the deal takes longer than 30 or 60 days to sell, right?
Right. And we'll dive into that too, especially with land, because I think and we kind of touched on this a little bit when we spoke at CG, but like land is not as common as you might think, especially like in the wholesale world or the real estate investment world. Like everybody tends to start with houses, right? Like everybody usually sticks with houses. And I think the bulk of that and the reasoning for that probably is because I think a lot of people don't understand land, right? Because it's easy when you learn it, when you understand it, right? But like you were talking about with comps earlier, it's a lot harder, in my opinion, to find comps for land than it is to find comps for houses.
Yep.
And so I think because of that, it's not technically as easy. And so everybody goes to houses, and so I think that's awesome that you guys have stuck with land and like that's your bread and butter now. Because I know a lot of people that like they'll start with land just because they fall into something or whatever the case may be, and then they kind of shift into doing houses and then they just forget about the land. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been kind of surprising to me that I have so many friends that are in real estate, and most of them do houses. Just what I call regular real estate, which is basically everything, which is 99%, which is everything else in real estate that's not.
Yeah.
And whenever I tell them about land, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool," but like they never jump into, they never want to like expand their business into land because I mean, to me, land is so simple, and it's not just because I learned it. Obviously, I know so much about it now that it's simple to me. But even from the beginning, it was just so simple compared to houses. I mean, the advantage is that when you know the real estate world and you know everything about houses and development and flipping and multifamilies and all that, there's more. I think you could scale more because it's a more scalable business in a way. I think land is a little bit harder to scale, but it's definitely easier to do.
I think there's a lot less competition in land too.
Yeah, there's less. It's almost like the difference between skiing and like snowboarding, right? They say like skiing is easier to learn, harder to master. Snowboarding is harder to learn, easier to master. So kind of like that, like land. I mean, you have a lot less competition with land, but there is. And it is a growing industry. Like in the last, it's nothing compared to when I started. And so I only started 2.5 years ago. When I started 2.5 years ago, there were some people, there were some groups. Now there's just so many like groups and sub masterminds and courses and so many people doing it. I feel like the competition has been like the biggest challenge for me, which is not that big of a challenge. Like it's fine, it's okay. Like the biggest challenge
in everything. Any business, right?
Yeah, there's always going to be competition, and it's healthy, and it's good. It's good. And competition sometimes means that you end up meeting more people, more business opportunities, more potential partners and stuff like that. Which is and the other challenging thing is about it is that as opposed to like you are in one market or a couple of markets at most, right? And you just focus on those markets for years or decades, right? And that's the way I understand the people that do real estate, operate. They just operate in one or two markets. With me, I've done deals in 6 different states, and like the The state I'm focusing in right now, I only did one deal so far, and I've been in that state for the last 2 months. And before that, it was a different state, and before that was a different one. So I'm always jumping around, like looking for different things, because it's like with land, it kind of dries up. There isn't as much land. There's a lot of land out there, right? But there isn't
Yeah.
as many like info lots as there is houses. So the opportunity is just
Right.
not there as much. So you have to constantly be innovating, either a place or your methods, right? It's
Right.
not so straightforward.
Yeah. No, I see that, man. So let's kind of jump back to the beginning, right? Because obviously your background is probably a little bit different than a lot of people that get into, real estate, right?
Yep.
Especially like when it comes to wholesaling or land or anything like that. I think a lot of people get into it because, they're laid off or they're looking for, a side hustle that turns full time or whatever the case may be. But you had the restaurant, right? And you've got, the Amazon store and everything. So what do you think it was that drove you to, really want to pursue doing the real estate?
So that's a good question. I mean, I got into kind of not by mistake, but I was sort of frustrated with like the Amazon e-commerce space. I still have my Amazon business. It's not as big as it used to be. It was always, it was always like medium size, and now it's really, really small. But I just have, products that sell, and they're kind of like an autopilot. So that's, great. So I
Right.
kind of still have it. But, I the once I found the land space and the land business, and how easy, at least for me, how easy it was, and the dollar amount for ratio versus like how much time spent, right? Like how much money you make per time spent was, you couldn't compare it to anything else that I've known until that point. I mean, forget about the restaurant business. I mean, the restaurant, I mean, you just slave away to make $1, and
Yeah.
as the owner, right? As the owner,
Right.
as a manager, you slave away. And in this business, I was just making so much more money for the amount of time that I was spending in it, and I was enjoying it. Obviously,
Right.
part of the enjoyment comes from that, from like working so hard for the money. That's always enjoyable.
Yeah.
But also because of like its simplicity, and it's it's kind of real. It's real estate.
Yeah.
It's real. Like it's land.
Yeah.
You buy land. Everybody loves to own property. To imagine like that feeling that you get when you own your first property, your first piece of land. That kind of gets you going. It's like, I'm a property owner now, right? Like I own land. And it's I sold it right away, but it was like it kind of drives you to do more and more. And for me, it's I have ambitions to do more things within real estate. For me, real estate is the industry that I think I'm going to be involved in probably for the rest of my life. I really enjoy real estate, and so far I'm enjoying land, so I haven't pivoted to anything else. But I do learn. I'm always learning about other parts of real estate, on Twitter or podcasts or masterminds. Right. I mean, CG, the one that you're part of, where we met. I mean, how many land guys were there? I mean, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, not many. Yeah, as opposed to all the house guys. Yeah.
I mean, there was 200 people and 5, so that's like 2%.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're a small group, but I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, man. Because I think that's going to hit home for a lot of people, right? Because, and it's not to downplay real estate, right? There's a lot of work that's involved. And it's going to keep you busy. It's not easy. It's not, it's not a get rich quick thing at all by any means.
No.
But to your point, right? When you look at the dollar cost average on, your hourly rate or your daily rate, or, however you want to look at, your earnings, right? As opposed to like what you're talking about, the restaurant business, it's incomparable, right?
Yep.
And the simple fact is, especially when it comes to wholesaling, like what you guys do, you guys are calling people in states that you guys aren't even in. I mean, you're able to make this money by picking up a phone.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
versus having to, drive traffic to a store, be at the restaurant, dealing with customers and, wrong orders. And then you got people that don't show up, and servers and service and all the stuff that's involved with that. Right.
Yeah, of course. Look, the restaurant business has taught me like so much. I mean,
Right.
from managing employees to dealing with customers. I mean, customer service is like everything in the restaurant business. To product quality, to dealing with paying the lease and just
Mhm.
I mean, it just the restaurant business is just encompasses so much of like abilities that a person has, which I'm very grateful for that experience. I mean, I've had it for 10 years. This is just like a different thing completely. I mean, the land space specifically within real estate really allows a person to work from home on a different level. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
I've been completely remote. I mean, I live in Miami. I started this business when I was in New York. I live in Miami. I've not touched a piece of real estate in New York or Miami. You know, most
Right.
of my deals come from like Texas, other parts of Florida,
Mhm.
Arkansas, Arizona, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Those are the states that I've been around, and I've dabbled a little bit in California. So like, and it's all from here. And I could do this if I would be sitting in a beach in Fiji. I'll be able to do this. I mean, I know that like remote work or remote businesses are romanticized a lot. Like,
Right.
you can do this from anywhere, but this is really that. Like, you could really do this from anywhere. You don't have to. It's land. You don't have to go see it. I haven't seen probably 70-80% of the lands that I've bought and sold.
Right.
Some of those I did. People ask me like, "Do you go see the land? Do you ever go see it?" And I used to do it more, and I probably should do it more. But you really don't have to. Like for me, it has helped me in the past where I've done a few deals in a certain area, and then I've decided to go there for different reasons to go check the property. And then I always ended up doing more deals in that area once I went and I saw it, I was there physically. And the
Right.
reason for that is, and this is gonna touch upon another subject I want to talk about is, you know, how do I sell the properties, right? So like the course talks about the first course I took, which was my like the first stepping stone. I already evolved, into different things and I
Right.
implemented different methods. I don't do exactly what the course did, what I learned at the beginning. But one of the things that they taught at the beginning was to not use realtors because that way you save on commission, right? Which because we're selling such cheap properties, so like save commission, don't be a realtor, sell by yourself, blah blah. And then I discovered that especially on the higher price properties, you do want to use realtors, because you're leveraging realtors, pay the commission, who cares? Like
Connection.
a local realtor is just invaluable if it's a good one, right? A bad one is not good, but a good one is just you can't put a price tag on that. I mean, they have buyers lists. They're gonna promote your property. They're gonna make sure you're gonna price it right. You're gonna list at the right price. So if you find a local realtor in a space in an area where you're doing deals that is gonna be on your team, is willing to work with you, for sure. Like you want to go for that. And
Yeah.
that has really helped me grow tremendously because like I got in touch with like local realtors and they recommended other properties, other areas to look into, and that just added so much value to my business.
I think that's also super important, especially for land, right?
Yep.
Because they're, look, especially with like the way you do it, right? You're in different markets all the time.
Hmm.
You're kind of jumping from market place to place and stuff like that. But when you find a realtor like that that's connected and that's willing to help you out, they know who's looking for land,
Yep.
right? They've
Yep.
got buyers or they've got other realtors that they know, like they've got connections and they know who's looking for something that you've got, right?
Hmm.
Versus if you just blast it out to a buyer's list, you're not going to know who's looking for it. You post it up on Facebook, you're going to get 30 wholesalers looking at you, trying to get you to send it to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge, takeaway and, a little nugget there is like with land, especially like utilize the people that are specialists in their market.
Yeah. I'm gonna add that it's not easy to find a realtor that specializes in land. I mean, there's ways to find them by using like Zillow, looking at recent sales and looking at who sold it. But there aren't many realtors that specialize only in land, and
Right.
you don't necessarily have to go after the realtors that do only land, but you do definitely want to be in touch with a realtor that has done at least some land deals in the last year, right?
Right.
Because
And
every realtor,
let's talk about why though, right? Because I think that's a big key takeaway too, is like, why do we need to work with someone who is a specialist in land, right? Because what's the difference between the process of like due diligence and closing on a piece of land versus a house, right? Like a house, they just have to go look at it, do an inspection, and they're pretty much good, right? They account for their rehab costs. They know what the ARV is, and everything. So like they're pretty much good once they go walk it. So with land, what's kind of like the process of like due diligence, and like what are buyers looking for whenever they're walking properties, or what are you looking for?
right? Okay, so there's two parts to that question. So I guess I'll answer the first part, which is what's the difference of with land and a house, and like what does a person look out for when they're looking at land? So what you want to look out for when you're buying land as a buyer, or if I'm going to buy land, I'm not going to wholesale, I'm going to actually buy and put money into it. The main things I want to look at are utilities. Like I want to know if it has electric access, or how much it's going to cost to bring in electric. But usually you want to make sure that there's electric access, like electric poles. You can see that on Google Maps.
Right.
You want to make sure that there's water, right? That there's city water available,
Mhm.
or that you could dig a well easily and not pay a ton of money to get that.
Right.
And that there's sewer. And if it's not a sewer, which is if there's no sewer available, which I don't know the number, but a big percentage, I would say most of the properties in the United States don't have sewer, right?
Mhm.
So what they have is called a septic system. To install a septic system in a property, the property needs to go through a percolation test. We call them a perk test. A perk test is, not to bore you with the details, but in summary, a perk test company comes and they test the soil, and they
Mhm.
do a soil test. It's also called a soil test, and they check to see how good the soil drains water. And based on that, they can tell you if you could put a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, if you could put a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, how many bathrooms you could put on basically in the property.
Gotcha.
So every property is going to perk for something. Most properties.
Mhm.
I mean, it's hard for a property not to perk at all. But sometimes you have this big lot, which is like half acre, and technically by the size, you think, hey, I could for sure put a 3-bedroom here because I see the house next door is 3 bedrooms, and it's on the same size lot as mine. But you're gonna, if it needs a septic system, you need to do percolation test, because a perk test could come back and show you they can only put a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, right? And temp 3, and
Yeah.
that devalues your property a lot,
Right.
by a ton. So that I would say is the main concern. Obviously, topography, like if the lot is on the side of a mountain, completely on a cliff, like
Right.
it's probably worthless. You could be in the best area in the world, but I mean, you're not going to be able to build anything on it. So you want to just see basic topography, which these are all things that you can see online. You can see online, you can see it beforehand. So those are things I do before I close on a property. I check these basic things, and once those things are clear, I just I use a title company. The title company, so I don't run into any title issues. I mean, I've had stories, where I bought property self-closed, and the properties had title issues. I ended up buying a portfolio from a guy, 10 properties from this dude, and I bought them for very, very cheap. I bought them for $600 each, $6,000 for 10 properties in Arkansas. It was like at the beginning when I was doing these cheap lots. And then I started selling them with a realtor. And, within 3 days, we sold the first one for like, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000. It was great. I was very excited. And then a few days later, she calls me back. She's like, the title company came back showing that there's a title issue. These properties were all bought at a tax sale. And that's where I learned the hard way about tax sales. This was about tax sales. Well, every state is different. So tax sales, that word can mean a lot of things in different states. But in Arkansas, what it means is that you can buy, people didn't pay their taxes on these properties, especially these cheap ones, because they didn't just care about them anymore. So they just stopped paying taxes. The city took them away and then sold them at a tax sale for pennies, right? Just to collect taxes on land, which by the way are very cheap, right? This is land. unimproved lots have very low taxes. And this guy bought like hundreds of properties from a tax sale. And in Arkansas, you have to wait 7 years before those properties could sell with a clear title. Until that, what you got to do is you got to go through, you got to clean the title. So you either get a quick claim or a quiet title. And anyway, I freaked out at the beginning. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh shit! Like
I'm done. This is it.
Yeah, I'm financially ruined forever. I lost $6,000. I was like, no, I was pretty devastated because I was excited. I was looking forward to all that money I was going to make from all these deals, and I was in the end, it actually worked out because I got a lawyer to fix the lots through a quick claim or no, he did a quiet title. So it took like 2 months. It cost me like $1,000 per lot. He fixed them up, and then I was able to sell them, and I actually made good money on those lots. So I
paid for more than the lot actually cost you.
yeah, exactly. I call that a task fail successfully.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to touch on is it applies to everything to every entrepreneur and about any kind of business. If you want to succeed in this business, in the land space, at the beginning, it's really it can look very tedious, and it can look kind of like a huge mountain to climb, and so many things, and there's so many terms, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're always scared of what you're going to step into. But my advice, which is the advice I got from the people that told me how to do this at the beginning, is you just got to lean into it. You just got to lean into the hard things and the things that look hard. Just lean into them. Just do them every day. Do a little bit until you get your first deal done. And then once you do that, even if it wasn't for that much money, but once you do one deal, it's just going to take off because you're just going to learn.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah,
rinse and repeat. But you have to do the work. You have to actually do the work. Like if you have to write up a warranty deed and you didn't even know, you never heard the word warranty deed before, right? And now they're telling you, well, you got to write up this warranty deed if you want to self-close. So then, Google it, ask, find out how to do that and just do it. It looks impossible, but you just got to do these little things. And that's the way you just get things done. And then you are going to fail. You are going to make mistakes, but sometimes these mistakes are not that costly. And sometimes these mistakes actually lead to bigger deals or better deals. You're going to end up making more money than you realize.
Yeah. No, I one of the biggest deals that we've ever done was a deal that we got under contract with the guy, went to title, massive title issues that we weren't able to clear. And then the guy was like, well, I'll just move into this house and sell you my other one. And he did. Moved into that house and ended up getting his other house under contract for the same amount. The guy, and it was a completely different house, completely different neighborhood. Like the house we had originally had under contract was like kind of like in the hood, like, was like a little like 3-bed, 1-bath, like 1,100 square feet, not in a neighborhood, just off of a road. And had like a huge like vendor's lien, had some child support liens on it, like had just a laundry list of liens on it. And his liens actually were worth more than what the property was worth. And so the house that he ended up getting us, like we ended up actually getting under contract with him and actually wholesaled it, was a nice 4-bed, 2-bath, like 2,000 square foot in a neighborhood, and was probably worth 2.5, almost 3 times what the other one was worth.
Wow.
We had no idea it even existed. Right. And at the time, we had a buyer lined up for the other property. We were going to make like $25,000 on it on an assignment fee. And whenever we got the laundry list of, title issues, I was pissed. Right. I was like, God bless, like, this is such a good deal. And we're just going to lose it completely out of our control. And we just went to the guy and we're just honest with him and told him what was going on. And I just asked him straight up. I was like, hey man, what solutions do you have? I left it up to him. I was like, hey, what solutions do you have? Because you're either going to, lose this house or, what? And so, yeah, long story short, he ended up selling us his other house for what he owed on the liens. on the
Oh,
original.
wow.
So yeah, back to your point, like that was failed successfully, you
Yeah,
know.
that's so successful. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt like that. I'm gonna make a T. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make more money with the T-shirts than with land.
There you go,
Um,
man. So
it's
with the land stuff, man. So what, you know, because I think obviously with houses, right? Everybody knows, you know, how to market the houses. You know, there's no secret. You know, you cold call and PPC and all that fun stuff. So what are you guys doing as far as marketing? You know, you told me what you guys were doing originally, right? You were sending out the mailers with the offers and stuff.
mhm.
You know, mailing people checks. Um, you know, so what are you guys doing now? Obviously, you know, you're 2.5 years in. Um, you know, things have evolved now. So what's marketing look like now?
So at the beginning, I was sending blind offers, and blind offers means that you're putting in an offer, an actual offer in the letter. Then I pivoted more to neutral letters. For a while, I was doing neutral letters, but it was only mail. I was doing only mail, no cold
Mhm.
calling, nothing else. And I got my other brother, because the brother got me into the course. He doesn't do real estate. He's still in the Amazon space. But I got my younger brother, my other younger brother, to get into the land space about a year ago. And he went right into it. He started doing really well, and he discovered that texting works really well with land as well. Because we used to discuss different. He didn't partner with me. He had his own thing going on, and he was tinkering and trying different things. And we at some point we're discussing about maybe texting, and he got into it. He got an account on, was it like Lee Sherpa, I think, and he started like texting out, and he started getting deals. So then I jumped into that bandwagon, and I was like, hey, let me try texting in my thing. And I started texting you know even markets that I was involved in the past, and I started getting some deals that way. And I have to say, this year I probably did more texting than I did letters, like, because so texting is super super powerful, and
Mhm.
it's really really effective. The downside, the advantages over letters is that you get instant responses, right? You're talking to people right away. It's in their like the person has a phone, he's texting his mom, and he gets a text from me like, hey, I want to offer you, I want to buy your property. So then you're in his head. You're like, right, a
Right.
letter, like, it comes, it goes to spam, like, who knows.
Mhm.
And if someone's responding you in text, you have him, right? You
Mhm.
already have that connection, like you have a lead
Right.
instantly. The main disadvantage, I would say, is that when you get a list that you're texting, probably 30 to 35% of those numbers are real. So like, you're getting this whole list from the county or wherever you're getting your list from, a good 60, 65 up to 70% of those people are not getting your market. You're not reaching them. So you still have to mail if you want to have a chance of reaching everybody in that city, if it's that
Right.
important to you. With texting, I guess, if you want to implement only texting strategy, just know that you're missing out on 70% of your lists. You just have to move to more places, again and again and again. So my strategy right now is sort of like hybrid. So I'll first text a spot that I'm interested in, and if it works out well, if it's got decent amount of leads and deals, so then I'll mail, to make sure I
Okay.
get the rest of the list.
Kind
So
of like
that's
a
kind of,
1-2 punch. Yeah.
yeah, kind of 1-2 punch. And then if it goes well with the letters, maybe I'll mail again.
Mhm.
Different kinds of letters. So it's I get letters all the time. I get
Yeah.
letters all the time, and I get texts. It's like, because I still own property, right? So I get letters all the time. But I've noticed a big slowdown in the last 2 months. I have not gotten any letters, and I've gotten
Mhm.
very very few letters. I used to get like a few a week, and now I get like maybe one a week for my properties.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I know that the competition got very fierce in the last year.
Mhm.
It slowed down the last couple of months, but in the last year and a half, I was getting so many letters. I'm like, I'm never gonna make money in this industry again. I mean, everybody's, either offering less than me and making more money, or offering more than me and just taking away all my deals, all my sellers. But it's fine. It's not like that. if you're good at what you do and you do it right, and you're a straight shooter, sellers, at the end, it's all about building rapport with sellers and them trusting you and you trusting them. And it's hard for someone to trust if you're not doing things if you're not being straight. So if I always tell people, if you're straight and you're honest and you're clear with your intentions, you're gonna get deals, and you're gonna get the good deals.
Yeah. Well, and I think people can sniff out when people are bullshitting them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially when it comes to trying to wholesale something or whatever. Like, people can sniff it out, right?
Yeah.
People think they're slick and people think they're sly, but at the end of the day, like, people sniff out bullshit. And that's just, everybody kind of has that radar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some are better than others. But everybody's got that radar, and I think that's, like what you said, like, just, be straightforward about what you're doing, what your intentions are and everything like that. And it's really going to pay off. I mean, that's how we run our, on our side, with the houses and everything like that. We're upfront with people and just let them know what's going on.
Yeah, and that's why it's sometimes easier to, if you don't want to have the conversation with the seller or you're afraid that you're going to lose that deal, so then it's better to just buy it outright, and then just sell it, so you don't have to deal with with that part of the deal, but just know that then you're putting in your money. But usually when we go into these deals in the land space, we look for 100% margin. That's kind of like we're looking at the beginning. I was offering 30 cents on the dollar for properties, and I was getting my offers accepted because it was a lot less competition. It was COVID, people were just selling their stuff. So it was good times, for me at least.
Right.
But then those offers had to come up a little more to like maybe 40, 50 cents on the dollar, and less offers get accepted even then. But usually we look for that margin. We look for 100%, 80%, like at a minimum.
Now, are you saying 30, 40 cents on the dollar, like compared to like the assessed value?
Compared to how much my assessed value, to how much I think I can sell it for, right? So, it kind of changed a little bit for me. At the beginning, it was more about like the margin, the number, the percentage, right? What percentage can I sell it for more?
Right. Well, also too, you're coming from the Amazon space, right? So like the e-commerce space, it's all about the percent, net margin, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I realized that the margins were so ridiculous that it didn't really matter. Like it was either like sometimes it was 700%, sometimes 600%. Like I wasn't not going to do a deal because it was only 500%. Like
right, yeah.
And then it's like, well, it all depends. It all depends on the market. For me now, it's like there's like a hard number that I need to make minimum on a deal. That's really what's about, especially because I'm wholesaling. So it doesn't really matter how much I'm buying, selling for. What matters is what my assignment fee is going to be, right? So if I'm not going to make, 15,000, sometimes like I'll go with $10,000. I'm not going to really work on that lead. I could spend my time better on a deal that is going to give me that, right? If I'm only going to make 3, 4, 5,000, it's really not worth the hassle. So like even if a property, let's say, is worth it, the seller wants 60,000, right? But I could sell it for 75, or let's say 80, and then after closing costs I'm making 15. So then it's good. I'll go for it. I'll definitely go for that. Why not? That's a nice deal. That's a decent deal. I usually try to aim for more, but like if it's up to like 10, 15, that's still a decent deal for me. If it's a wholesale, right? Because then it's like I'm not putting any money down, and then the margin doesn't really matter anymore. It's all about like how much cash can I make.
And I think that's important too, man. Because even aside from like the land side, even on the the house side, a lot of people from different businesses that I think get into this look at it the same way you're talking about, where it's like the percent margin, right? Versus like when you're wholesaling, you can't really do that. Like you can, but to be, really successful, like you really got to look at, like you said, like you got to kind of have that hard number, right?
Yeah.
Because that 15K could be 50% margin on some deals, could be 10% margin on some deals.
Yeah.
But you're still walking away with 15K regardless.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's obviously if like a seller wants, $500,000 and I could sell it for like $515,000, I'm not gonna do it. It's just just like that. It's just too much. It's too much money on the line. The margin's really, really, really small there, right? Especially because when you consider closing costs and commissions on such a big deal, it's
Mhm.
really going to eat up completely into your profits. It's like it's really not worth it. But like in these smaller deals, so that's kind of what I look out for more, right? And now I'm getting into a completely different space within the land business. Wholesale is nice, it's clean, it's good money, but I want to make more money per deal rather than make a lot of small deals and make the same amount of money. So I've heard this quote on a different episode on a different podcast somewhere else. I don't remember where, but the guy was saying how there's many ways how to make a dollar, right? Like you can make a dollar by getting 100 pennies, or you can make a dollar by having 3/4 and like 5 nickels, or you can have a dollar, right? So I'm
Right.
trying to make a dollar by getting a dollar, not by making
Right.
100 pennies. And this is something which is becoming a little more popular now, which is the subdivision and entitlement space within the land thing,
Mhm.
which basically means that you take a piece of land, especially a big piece of land, 10 acres plus, and you either do like a minor subdivision, you can do a major subdivision. Not going to bore you with the details, but there's different aspects of it, and there's different
Mhm.
ways you could do that. But the general term is that you take one lot and you divide it into 3 or 4 or 5 or 100, right?
Right.
So what that does is, before I would have to buy 10 lots from 10 different sellers and sell it to 10 different buyers. So that's 10 different deals. Now I have one seller, right? I do the work and then I could have 10 different buyers, right? So I minimize my work in half in regards to with
Yeah.
dealing with like sellers and buyers. I still have to deal with 10 buyers. And there's another play you can do there within the subdivision where you can sell the whole thing to one, let's say, builder, the one that needs it subdivided, or he needs it entitled, which is different than subdividing, but it's basically where you plan it out and map out how it could be subdivided for a builder to come in and just it's all ready for building.
Right.
So that requires a different kind of work, different kind of investment, different kind of timeline, but they all take at least between 6 months to 18 months to get it done. So it's a longer play and takes a longer time, and there's a lot more money involved in getting it ready, right?
Right.
Engineering and surveys and stuff like that. But it's definitely more attractive to me with what I want to do now. It's so I'm working on one right now, and it involves all these things, and it's super interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's a good evolution for the land, right? Because that's now you're starting to get into the development space and and things like that. And so that's where, like we were talking about, you're maximizing your profit per
Mhm.
deal.
Exactly. And also it also feels more like I'm adding value. Like it
Right.
actually feels like one of the things that attracted me to real estate is that you're adding value. Like you build a house and now someone lives in it. You're actually doing something. Versus, well, with the restaurant business also you're feeding people, right?
Right.
It's temporary, but it's you're doing something. With like wholesaling land, I believe some people don't. It could be a little controversial, right? You know yourself. The wholesaling space in general. Some people don't like that, right? Because it's
Right.
like, but I see the value. Maybe I'm a little biased because I've been a wholesaler myself, but I
Mhm.
think the value that we bring to the market, houses or land, is that we're bringing these properties which are off market. What they could be sitting there for 100 years and not doing anything, right? They could just be sitting there with not in the market, and we're bringing this liquidity, so to speak, like more supply to the market, which the
Right.
market needs supply, right?
Yeah.
So we're just part of the ecosystem, and we're just moving the waters around, and we're bringing in liquidity, so to speak.
Mhm.
So I think there is a lot of value there. But like with this thing where you're subdividing land and you're getting you ready for building, this is an actual how do you say it? Like you're actually value adding, right? You're actually adding value to the project. And the beauty of it is, one of the main things about it is that you can buy properties at market value. So you don't necessarily have to find these deals, right? These like mispriced deals, or these like super motivated sellers that are willing to just take cash offer right now for 60%, right? You can
Right.
actually pay market value, and then you're going to take this property and you're going to add so much value to it. Everybody wins, right? The seller just doesn't want to go through that. So he sells it to your market value. He makes the full market price, right?
Mhm.
and you're subdividing, you're selling it to a builder that's willing to pay, right, that amount because you subdivided for him, right? And you're just putting in the work. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, sweet, man. Levi, we're coming up on our time here, man. So what's what's the last little thing you want to leave the audience with, and then we'll sign off, man.
I'll leave you with a quote from BoJack Horseman. If you watch that show, and it's got a lot of livable quotes, and one of the ones that he has is he's running. He starts running that day. He decides he wants to go jogging to get into shape, and he falls down. He's out of breath, and then this monkey comes over to him. This like master sage monkey, and he looks at him and he's like, if you want to get through, you're going to get through this. You're going to be able to, be a jogger and a runner, but you have to do it every single day. Like, it doesn't matter how much, but you have to do every single day. You have to do a little bit. And I know that sounds very cliche, and you probably heard this a million times, but it's true. It's true. Like, if you do something every single day without fail, even if it's just a little 5 minutes or 10 minutes of work, it just gets you into that zone, and then you have a different respect for yourself, right? Then you view yourself like, if you're gonna get into the land space, if you do it every day, you're gonna start looking at yourself as a land guy. I'm a land guy. I'm a real estate because I do this every single day. Whereas if you do like 10 hours, one day, but then you don't do it for 2 weeks, you're just gonna lose steam, because then you just
Love it, man. Love it, man. Well, Levi, I appreciate you hopping on today, man, and sharing some value with everybody about land. And I think it's a super underrepresented space. So appreciate it, man.
Yeah. And if anybody wants, anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me at, you can put it in the notes. That's it. Yeah. That's my Instagram. There you go.
Awesome, man. Yeah. We'll put Levi's contact information for his Instagram and everything in the notes and in the description here. So if you guys got any value out of this today, be sure to like, subscribe, share the episode. Levi, I appreciate you, man. And that's all for today.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, Austin.